And welcome to another edition of Cooking with Lily and Generoso. I am Generoso.
I'm Lily.
It's been a little while since you've seen us. We have relocated to the other side of the United States, and we are incredibly happy to be here. To all of our new Los Angeles watchers, welcome to what we consider to be a really fun show. So, as I said, we are going to be doing something very special today. It is Melanzane Timballo, which is a really, really beautifully cooked casserole dish involving eggplant and sausage and beef, and you're really going to enjoy this. It's a little bit complex. There's a few different areas, and it's not what I normally consider an after work dish. This is for your Sunday afternoon eating, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it here on this Memorial Day to last us throughout the week. So let's look at the impressive amount of ingredients and hardware that you're going to need, shall we? Alright, let's start off. Of course, we're going to need one very lovely large eggplant. We're going to need some fresh basil, a pound of whole milk mozzarella, not skim. I've ground up some pecorino romano cheese, a box of penne, a can of nice plum tomatoes, crushed, some sweet peas, black pepper, salt, a little bit of crushed oregano, 3 good-sized sweet Italian sausage, not hot, half a pound of ground beef, 30% fat, 1 small onion, I think, medium-sized onion.
That's a small onion.
I'd say that's about 8 cloves of garlic, not the huge kind, the raffy kind as we always call, some extra virgin olive oil, a bit of Marsala wine, and I think I said salt. We're going to need a pot for pasta, a frying pan, not only for our eggplant, but also for our meats. We're going to need a casserole pan in order to cook our timbale in the oven, a strainer for the penne, and as always, a very good knife and a couple of ladle and a soup spoon. We're going to start prepping, and we'll be back. This whole dish will probably take us about 2.5 hours to make. Most of that, of course, is oven cooking time, so don't fret. It's not that hard. It's just a lot of stages, so we'll be back in just a bit. So we have done a lot of prep. And you need to see this prep. So let's look at the prep. We uncased our sausage, and we've broken it up into little tiny balls. The meat is still the same way. Lily has very lovingly minced the garlic. We have diced our wonderful onions. We have wonderful little sheets of very thin eggplant, and keep it as thin as possible because it's going to act as like a dough or the outside layer of our timbale. We have chopped up all of that giant hunk of mozzarella, and are we going to use all of it, Lily?
Yes!
Why, yes, we are. We've chopped up our wonderful fresh basil, and what we are going to do now is we're actually going to cook our sauce. So it's a very, very basic tomato sauce, and this is going to act, of course, throughout the timbale. So first things first, we're going to need our wonderful tomatoes. So add the entire can of beautiful plush tomatoes. Turn the heat on to a very, very low. About there. Okay. And we are going to add, about half the garlic. Lily's giggling because I just smashed my hand into the refrigerator. You cruel, cruel woman.
No, there was this beautiful little shower of garlic, and it was the cutest thing.
I try my best to be adorable while my hand is in crippling pain. Give that a quick stir. Get that in there. Oh, I'm just teasing. I didn't hurt myself.
You didn't hurt yourself. It was the shower of garlic that was so cute.
Like poof. Now we're going to add a teaspoon of salt. And a good teaspoon of pepper.
While we get started, there'll be a lot of those moments.
Yeah, we're trying to figure the size of this kitchen out bit by bit by bit, and so we're going to stay with that and give that a little bit of a stir. Now this is going to cook for about the next 45 minutes or so while we prep all the other ingredients, and we'll be right back to show you the next step. So now our sauce is cooking, again very basic, salt, pepper, garlic, and a bit of fresh basil. We're now going to cook our eggplant, but again, this is going to be creating the actual casserole with the eggplant, so we're going to put it aside once we fry it. So you want to get your pan, start on a nice, a little bit higher than that maybe, nice above medium heat, add a lot of oil. Do not be shy about adding a lot of oil. These are going to have to fry, and they're going to have to fry really well. You want these to soften again, and that's going to be fundamental. We're going to wrap the inside of that green casserole pan that we showed you. So you're really going to want to have this very, very nicely cooked. So we're going to add, and this is going to be a step-by-step process of adding our eggplants. And they're going to soak up all that nice oil, and they're going to start to fry a little bit. And then we'll be back to show you exactly what they look like before we move to the next step. So over the last 20 minutes, we've actually been frying up all of our pieces of eggplant, separating them from the pieces that are a little bit thicker to the others, and you'll understand why in a little tiny bit. We've put them aside, and we're going to let them cool off for a bit. They're way too hot to the touch. And remember, these slices of eggplant are going to become the dough of our timbale. So let's not deal with them right now. Our sauce is still cooking at a nice rate, nice and bubbly. We've been giving it a stir about every 10 minutes or so.
You do not want it to burn.
No. Now we want to separately cook our onions. We do not want to add our onions raw to the timbale mixture, which we're eventually going to do so. Add a little bit of olive oil to this frying pan. It's been getting a lot of use this morning. And we're going to add our wonderful onions, all of them. And we're going to brown our onions. And then once they're brown, we're going to put them aside as well in this little plate. And then we'll be back with the next part of our timbale filling. After about 10 minutes of cooking, we've browned our wonderful onions. Now we're going to add a little tiny bit more oil. And we're going to go to the next stage, and that's cooking down the meat of our timbale. Yes, Lily is a fan of meat. I'm going to get that nice and warm. So, Lily asked me off camera, and I think this is relevant. If anyone who's ever seen the film Big Night, you might be thinking, are you making timpano? And no. Fundamentally, the two things about timpano are A, you're going to make a thin dough, and secondly, you're going to add a bechemel sauce to make that kind of cake. That's not what we're really doing here. Timbale is a little tiny bit different in the sense we're not using any dough. There's no flour involved in this process. We're going to be using the eggplant again to be like the shell and the covering for the timbale. The stuffing inside is a little bit similar. There's no eggs, and again, there's no bechemel sauce. Fundamentally, one of the things that makes a huge difference is how we're going to prepare our meat. So we're going to prepare it all together. This is the beef, and this is the sausage. Now we're going to take a few minutes, we're going to add the remainder of our garlic to this. And fundamentally, we're going to brown this up. And I'll show you when it gets to the right color when we add our marsala wine. We'll be back in just a little time. So, it's been about 5 minutes, and I've been breaking up the sausage as we've been going along, usually using just my wooden spoon here, in the smaller pieces.
They're like clumping up.
Clumping up a little bit. Now it's a nice round. And so now we're going to add our wonderful marsala wine. Not a huge amount. Fundamentally, you want this to cook off. Unlike making, for example, veal marsala, you don't want it to turn into a roux. This is specifically so it flavors the meat individually. You also want to add a good amount of pepper to this. Let this cook down, and now that we've begun the meat process, which is the last stage, we're going to add all of our penne pasta with a bit of salt. And that's going to take, of course, a little bit of time. We want this penne pasta al dente, very chewy, because it's going to be cooked again inside the oven as part of the timbale. So we'll be back in a little bit, and we're going to put all of this together, and we'll put our timbale in the oven. Everything we need to make our timbale mixture. Yay! And I do want to say, and I haven't addressed this yet, we've been out in California now for about 4 weeks. We lived in a big city. Boston was a very large city, and you have access to everything you want. But the quality and the sheer volume of different kinds of agriculture that you get in this part of the world is staggering to someone like myself and someone like Lily. The things we've been able to get have just been absolutely beautiful. Peppers, gigantic peppers, and greens half the price. And so you'll be seeing a lot more variations on these dishes in years to come. But let's do our pasta. So we've wrung out our penne pasta. It is extremely al dente. Very, very chewy. Again, it's going to be baking in the oven, so we really want to keep it very, very chewy, or else we're going to have a mushy middle timbale.
And there's nothing as disappointing as mushy pasta.
Mushy pasta. We are going to add all of our meat
to
this mixture.
And the beautiful sauce and oil.
Absolutely. It's all going to go in. We're going to add our wonderful onions. All of them. Oh no, Jean, you're not stopping there. You're going to add all of our green beans. Our peas, excuse me. I have to call them green beans, it's so weird. Okay, give this a little mixture.
Little stirry stirs.
Add our parmesan. A pecorino romano, I should say. It's a lot of it as well. Give it also a wonderful stir. Okay. Again, it's a very lengthy process, but you will enjoy it, and so will everyone who eats this. We're going to add a lot of oregano right now. I say a lot, I mean like a teaspoon. It's going to add an extra little kick.
Oh, it smells so good.
It is very nice. Now we're going to add our wonderful tomato sauce. Okay. And give that a nice stir. So this is what's going to go inside the timbale. It is incredibly ridiculously savory, and I know you're going to love it. Again, you may wonder, if you're adding all this tomato sauce that has its own flavor profile, why would you do that to the meat? And again, I feel like the great thing about tamale is that all of these elements are going to have their own different flavor profile, but they're all going to mix really, really nicely. So we have this all mixed together. The mozzarella, you might be thinking, Generoso, where's the mozzarella? Yes. That's going to come in the construction of the timbale. We're going to do it in stages. And we're going to make our timbale shell in just a little bit. So our timbale mixture has been put together. It's off to the side. Now we are going to make the timbale pan. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our wonderful piece of Portuguese crockery, and we're really going to hit it up with oil. Why? Because, as you probably would imagine, eggplant does tend to stick to the sides a lot. So really be very, very, very open with your olive oil use. You want to get it nice and greased up perfectly. Just like you would if you were making a giant...
Lasagna.
You got it.
Lasagna.
So, coat it really nicely. Now we're going to take our eggplant, which has been cooling for quite a while, and we are going to create the base.
And you're creating the base with pieces that are, a tiny bit thicker, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it should coat the bottom up very nicely. And we'll be back in a little bit to show you what the pan looks like. And, okay, so after much work, we've taken all of our eggplant, and this is what we've done. We've made the crust for our timbale. We've layered pieces over pieces, so it'll form a nice foundation for what we're about to do, which is putting in our filling. So we're going to put in a layer of our timbale filling. A lot of pasta. Okay. And now that we've added one layer, we're going to add a copious amount of mozzarella. And that's going to, of course, harden around the sides as well, because it's going to melt, as you can imagine.
Melt and bubble.
And now let's add a bit more of our timbale filling.
It's a really pretty color.
Thank you. Filling it up as best we can. Add a little bit more. And in a way you might think like this will have the final texture of a baked ziti. You're not too far off from that. But fundamentally it means a lot of mozzarella. We have a little bit extra as well. Okay, it's pretty firm. Now the rest of our mozzarella is going to go on top. And you're going to want to cover this almost like its own layer.
And then will you also cover this before it goes in the oven?
No.
Oh,
No, it's actually
nice and wide open.
Nice and wide open. You want it to brown. And there's nothing that you can really put on top of it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to hurt the sides. Okay. And our timbale is ready to be put in the oven. The oven's been preheating for about 30 minutes at 350 degrees. We're going to put it in. And we're going to let it cook for about an hour to an hour and a half till it browns nicely on top. And we'll see what the final product. And now 90 minutes later, we've taken our melanzane timbale out. The eggplant on the outside is still nice and chewy. I cut off a little tiny bit because I wanted to check as we go through the process of baking, I remove a little bit just to make sure it has the kind of al dente taste. It's a little tiny bit crispy. It's really nice. We're going to let this cool for at least about an hour to an hour and a half. If we try to cut into it right now, it's going to fall apart. So you want to keep it. It wants to be served warm, but not too hot. Just like timpano, it'll break apart. But this is your melanzane timbale, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know how yours turned out, and thanks for watching Cooking with Lily and Generoso.